Hey stargazers, welcome back. Another week of astrology for you. Well, we've got Mars firmly fixed in Gemini now. He's recently gone past the Pleiadian point. In fact, if he's visible to you in the night sky, you'll see him just left of the Pleiades. Looks like a bright orange star as he's on his way over to Orion. And that'll be interesting, won't it, when Mars hits the Orion constellation. I don't often talk about fixed star astrology, but obviously the fixed stars in Gemini are very pertinent to me, and we'll perhaps go on to talk about that in the next couple of weeks. But we'll give Mars a bit of a break this week because we don't want to give him a big head. And instead we're going to focus on the nodes. You might remember just before we switched over to video format, I spoke probably at length to the point where you were like, sharp, about Neptune squaring the nodes, and actually how difficult that has made clarity, how difficult it's made clear vision, clear thought. It was almost like the straw on the camel's back, certainly of 2020 and 2021. And in order to understand that, really, perhaps we should dig into Neptune and what he brings to us. Before we get going, though, I don't normally give a trigger warning. I don't normally feel the need because A, you're all grown-ups, I think. B, I don't tend to talk about particularly scary or inflammatory specifics. And C, most of all, astrology isn't diktat. It's not government legislation. It's the planetary motions in the sky producing energies that you can use to pull a lever or not. It's your choice. But we are going to be talking about relationships a little bit. So just to let you know, and you can take what you want and you can leave what you want. It's all your choice. It's always your choice. So Neptune, well, he's a bit of a tricky customer at the best of times. He is, of course, the higher octave of Venus. He represents that transcendentalism, universal love and compassion, love of fellow human. Also incredibly sensitive, incredibly dreamy, empathic, can have a martyr complex sometimes. But his energy very much outside of your usual realm of existence, outside of the ego, outside of our everyday lives, shall we say. He has to kind of be discovered. I think he will act subconsciously in the background, but he has to be discovered. What Neptune wants is for you to access a completely different part of yourself. He doesn't want you to use your usual senses. He kind of demands really a certain kind of trust and a certain kind of knowing that we learn. You know, these are the deeper spiritual truths that ultimately we are safe. Ultimately, we are all one. But that's a whole journey for the human and the human body to get to. And so it can be really quite testing to be able to be standing in that place of I trust and I know. So some of the tests and some of the lessons from Neptune can be really, really quite hard. And he can work in a couple of ways. Okay, so he can work to imbue you with this real sensitive compassion for other people, for yourself, to go outside of yourself to contribute to humanity, to the world. And he can also be the dissolver. And this is the hard bit. This is the tricky bit. So in order to push us past ourselves, see beyond ourselves, he dissolves things that aren't necessary to us, aren't necessary to our existence. But his way of doing it is very different to Uranus and Mars, actually. So Mars will just crash headfirst into a wall there, the wall broke. Uranus will send thunderbolts down, break the wall. Neptune will create a dense, thick fog, slowly, like painstakingly slowly, dissolve the wall. So imagine this wall is just like surrounded by a haze, surrounded by misty fog, all for a reason, but it's a slow, gentle process. So when you're walking in fog, for those of you that have, we can't see the way forward, really tricky to navigate. We can think we see visions in the fog that aren't there at all. They're simply illusions. We can see good illusions that are actually delusions. It's a really, really confusing time. But eventually, by the end of it all, we've A, cultivated some patience, B, realised that we just can't control everything as much as we'd like to, and C, oh look, the wall's gone. So in a way, he's highlighted the wall and he has removed the wall in his own special way. He's been doing this all last year and this year, squaring the nodes. And squares, they're not good, they're not bad, but they can be stressful. And when something is squaring the nodes this way, to me, at the time, and I get it now, at the time, it just felt like a massive distraction. I'm like, literally, as an astrologer, I was like, Neptune, can you just not right now? Can you maybe just not? But he did. And he did it for a reason. And for those that wish to see, for those that have both struggled and grown immensely in the past year, he's been a real gift, actually. And I really think that this week is the week we are all going to begin to understand what Neptune has been up to. Many of you already know. Many of you knew at the start, yeah? But it's going to be so evidenced. I probably should have reminded you, actually, that Neptune, the old man of the sea, is currently in the sea, isn't he? He's in Pisces. So we've got double trouble. We've got double the haze and double the fog. Old man of the sea, of course, conjuring up those images of the misty, foggy illusions, and the ocean itself being representative of that deep subconscious part of us that connects us to everything, you know? So it's a very, very potent, very deeply spiritual place for a very spiritual planet to be. And he's going to be there for a while longer. He's a slow mover. So check and see in which house he sat at in your chart at the moment. Yeah, quite heady. Go and check that out. Anyway, let's now take a look at the rest of the week and we'll see how Neptune links in with everybody else, shall we? So firstly, kicking all this off for us is Venus squaring the nodes herself, actually. And you may recall back in February when we talked around Valentine's Day, how I personally didn't see it as a terribly romantic time for many people. I just saw it as more of groups of people together, you know, with significant others in the mix, if that was you. But I saw it as more a time for friends, for kin, for souls who appreciated each other. That's how I saw it. And that energy was unleashed, so like we were all busy fixing ourselves and finding our tribe and finding the people whose voices resonated with ours. That's kind of what Valentine's was about, if you remember. And I said at the time, you may begin to realize people you are aligned with and people you are not so aligned with. But it will take a while for that one to filter through. And you may keep testing relationships, you may keep testing certain partnerships, certain people in your life, just to get the feel of what's going on here. And it wouldn't be until the square came that you would perhaps want to make a decision, if at all, based on that Well, decision time is here if you want it. We've got Venus squaring the nodes, and that to me is very much tough love. What do we mean by that? Well, just because you appreciate and respect someone doesn't mean they necessarily need to be in your life. And it can be difficult when you maybe have unanswered questions, when maybe you're not sure what's happened. You might have to give yourself closure. Okay, so just question, which doors are you knocking on that never seem to open? Who's not responding to your communication? Who are you just not feeling right with? And you'll know. You might be ignoring it, but you'll know. Conversely, there's a whole other side to that coin too, isn't there? You know, who's knocking on your door? You don't want to be knocking on your door. Who's getting in touch with you? You don't want to be getting in touch with. And that's a matter of firm boundaries of, no, this isn't for me, thank you. And it's okay to have firm boundaries, by the way. Venus is saying that very clearly. I mean, it's always okay, but she's really letting you know at the moment, it's fine to have a firm boundary. It's fine to say, I'm sorry, for whatever reason, this isn't happening, but please go on, have a great life. So now is the time for honesty that is perhaps difficult, but will serve you and the other person or people greatly. So, you know, it could be a parting of ways. It could be a clarification of roles, a clarification of boundaries. But either way, it's really worth it. Yeah. And I think the more we hide away from these things, the more they can fester, the more they can make us feel awkward and get stuck in us. They can stick our flow. So just have a think about what's in alignment and what's not in alignment and act accordingly as you see fit. But you are called to more fully align yourself with your direction of travel. And it almost feels to me as if, you know, once we're quite clear in our boundaries, once we're quite clear where our direction is, who our people are, it's strengthening in a way. And even if you're nowhere near your people, even if they're millions of miles away, at least you have this sense of where you belong. At least you have this sense of a shared mind concept. And once you've got that firmly set within yourself, it's easier to face confusing situations. It's easier to have that clarity. And then, you know, lo and behold, on the 11th, we've got the sun conjunct Neptune, and the sun will be illuminating everything Neptune's been up to for the past, nearly a year. So we can expect to see all around us this, look what's been going on. Yeah, honestly, guys, it's almost like an Alice in Wonderland kind of feel to it. Only the other side, once she's woken up again, and it was all just a dream. That's how this feels for those that can tune into it and that want to tune into it. And I think the Sabian symbol for this was a table set for an evening meal, wasn't it? And that feels quite nice to me. It's almost like, well, day's work's done. Let's go and have some dinner with Grandad. And it's really like that. So I want you to imagine the sun sat down with Neptune, having some food, and they're having a bit of a conversation about what Neptune's been up to, right? So the sun asks, what did you get up to today, Grandad? And because of course it's his granddad. And Neptune replies, well, son, you know, I was busy creating a swirling, confusing, misty illusion for the entire world. The son's a bit confused because that's kind of not his bag. But he says, okay, right, at it again, why? And Neptune replies thusly, well, my hope was to encourage them to wake up to this inherent knowing that they have and trust in their higher self that they've all got inside themselves, which doesn't rely on their day-to-day force-fed reality, doesn't rely on their ego or the inner planets to navigate. And I did this in order to help move them past a really difficult time in their lives, which was ironically caused by their force-fed reality. And then the sun kind of twigs and goes, aha, I see. So, instead of fighting fire with fire, you fought it with mist. I get what you did there. Neptune just kind of nods. Yeah, that's me. And that's absolutely the way Neptune has been working. Yeah, fighting fire with the past 2 years isn't going to work. So he's been taking a completely different approach. And once again, hasn't it been hard? Hasn't it been difficult? But equally, haven't we grown? Haven't we learned to trust what's right for us? Haven't we learned to maneuver ourselves more towards the people who share our ethos, who share our way of being? This is all happening for us.
So this is how the energy is set up for us, and it's stacked up in our favour, certainly over the next few weeks or so. We're going to begin with that firm boundaries, a stronger sense of self, belonging, moving into that illumination of the imaginary and the distractions from our growth that Neptune's been gently pressing on our subconscious and equally dissolving on our behalf. This then brings us into the new moon at 23 degrees Pisces, and this is going to be an incredibly psychic, perceptive and aware new moon. Mark this on your calendar now. Make the most of this if you dare to stand in the eye of the hurricane and look where perhaps money wouldn't. The new moon will bring the emotional aspect of the feminine into alignment with our masculine outer energy of the sun, and all he's been discussing with Neptune that we ourselves have just been in conversation about. A new moon, of course, will always present a new start, and this can set us up magnificently if we allow ourselves to use our senses and perceptions beyond what is normal for most, to enable us to see the realities of the world, to see the inherent truths of our world. But you will also see something so much more. You will see where you've faced and where you've surpassed illusion, where you've surpassed distraction, where you've surpassed illness. Neptune and the 12th house, of course, are all about illness and confusion. Where you're moving out of the fray and seeing in a much clearer way than you have in the last 18 months since last July or August. And look, who's coming up to join our stellium? Well within range, less than a degree away from Neptune, is our Lady Venus. She's late to the party, of course, but that's for a reason. She's been busy helping you with compassionate boundaries, getting yourself all set, and now she's here to add her magic to the new moon too. Hurrah! And if you want to see even more healing, we've got both Chiron and we've got Ceres at lucky number 7 in initiatory Aries too. So where do you need nurturing? What new ways can you bring in to heal and grow? And let's not forget that Chiron himself is that bridge to knowing. Chiron is the bridge to the outer planets. So really make the most of this one. This is a gift that we've all needed for quite a while, and it's going to be right here for the taking, guys. So please, please do make the most of it if you feel you can. Because to be honest with you, for a few weeks after this new moon, the astrology kind of calms down a little bit. So these videos might be a bit shorter. We'll see what comes up. We'll see what we talk about. You might need a break. So for now, just allow yourself to feel your feels, allow yourself to get in alignment, and look forward to this really, really cool new moon. Right, my darlings, I will see you again next week. Take care. See you soon.